Chapter 7: Economics. Economics is the study of the trade of work. The principles of money are scientific and, as with all truths, simple and easy to understand. Government institutions have created artificial ideas such as employee, corporation, and dollar to enable them to control your labor. Their objective is to confuse you and make money complex so that they can more easily take it from you. Work. Everything you do to better your life requires work. It may be as simple as planting a seed and tending the soil so that it will grow to be your food. It may be washing the dishes so that you can eat from a clean plate. It may be climbing a hill so that you can slide down. You do everything you do to benefit yourself and those you love. Trade. You may not be good at building some of the things you want. You may not want to plant your own food. Trade allows you to do different kinds of work, but to give that work to others in exchange for work they can provide you. If you cannot build an integrated circuit, but can operate on a tumor, then a trade can help two people, a doctor and an engineer. Trades can be between 2, 3, or hundreds of people, but at the end of the day, it is as simple as trading your work for someone else's work. You get to do what you're best at, but get to receive what others are best at. Savings and debt. Savings and debt allow people to perform trades without the restriction of time. When you work today and redeem the traded work later, it is called savings. When you redeem today and perform the traded work later, it is called debt. Both principles enable you to control your labor without being subject to time. Money. Money is the record of all savings and debt transactions. All it does is record what you owe or what is owed to you. It can be carried symbolically as paper or coin, or as a line item on an accounting book. After you have performed some of your work in trade, you receive money to record the value of that work. Your trade of work can be between any number of people and all redeemed at different times. The principle of money greatly enables people and frees them to work and receive the benefits of their own schedules. Economic control. There are people who wish to use your work for their own purposes without providing anything in return. The objective of economic control is to control as much of your labor as possible. Tax. There is an extra party to most economic trades that take place on Earth. They offer no benefit to either party, and they do not allow you to choose whether or not to include them in the trade. A tax is when someone takes money that does not belong to them. Taxes are law and not principle, because they destroy freedom and must be enforced. Some of the people who tax are common thieves, while others are powerful governments. Extortion. The corruption of economics is called extortion. When you labor, but someone else redeems your work without your permission, it is tax. To tax someone is to steal from them a portion of their work, or all of it. Under taxation, you work but gain nothing in return. Even when the claim is made that the money will be spent for your benefit, you cannot choose what your work will buy. Under taxation, the extortionist is the master and you are the slave. What amount of time they steal from you is irrelevant. A slave for an hour or a slave for life is still a slave. Failure to pay is penalized by imprisonment or death. Taxation comes in many forms. The simplest is to steal your money without you ever realizing it. We call this theft, and it is practiced by common criminals. The more popular and vastly more profitable form of taxation is to take a portion of your work when you produce it, when you trade it, and when you save it. This is the form which is practiced by governments and mafias. There is another form that is incredibly devious and difficult for people to see. The restriction of behaviors to compel you to do something that authority wants is taxation. Using this method, they never have to bother with money. They simply compel you to do their bidding directly. This form of taxation is called by many, many names. Some of them are price controls, regulation, bureaucracy, red tape, paperwork, formalities, oversight, social security, public works, and the biggest, the public good. Effective taxation is a function of time. A common thief will steal as much money from you today as possible. Tomorrow you will be destitute and have nothing left for him to take. Furthermore, you will run far away or find a method of protecting yourself in the future. Governments are far more advanced. They allow you to keep a portion of your work for yourself, enough so that you will not run away or revolt, but instead continue working where they can take from you again tomorrow. Taxation constantly fluctuates as governments test whether or not they can get more from their subjects. If people slow down or quit working, then taxes are too high. Culture is manipulated to keep up with increasing taxes to teach people the nobility of government and slavery. Because taxation is a function of time, they can pirate from you not just huge percentages of your money today, and not just for the rest of your life, but all possibility of interest on your labors. Government taxation is the single most effective extortion racket that has ever existed. The evil genius comes with the culture. Most, quote, citizens consider it honorable to pay their masters. Earn, trade, save. Taxation is obfuscated in every area of your life. The easiest to see is when you take your money as you earn it. Income tax, regulations, and governmental restrictions allow the extortionist to pirate labor before you ever get to put it to your use. You serve them. They leave you the scraps. Whatever the percentage of your liberty or labors they allow. Extortionists take a further percentage every time you trade your labor, called sales tax, use tax, gas tax, or any such sundry names. You have less than you produce because they already took huge percentages from you, and now as you go to redeem your labor for food, shelter, better health, or comforts, they take even more. This is not all. Because they also restrict your choices in redemption, they tell you what is, quote, legal, quote, to buy, how much, and sometimes at what price. Once earned and spent or saved, your money and property are still not safe. Property taxes and annual licensing fees confiscate a further percentage of your work. as a privilege for ownership of your own money. You bought a house and you bought a car, but in reality, you're just renting them from government. Try not paying the taxes and fees if you don't believe that. You will be shortly evicted. All of this is designed to keep you working tomorrow on the upkeep of your masters, lest you retire too early. Your money is not safe in savings either. All governments control their forms of money, such as the US dollar, and it is illegal to trade using any other currency. Inflation is engineered by governments to erode your savings over time as they spend your money through government deficits. Inflation also ensures that as your savings are eaten away, you will be forced to keep working, wherein they can repeat the cycle of taxation. Remember that the reason you work is to benefit yourself and those you love. Yet, because they are more powerful than you, many people have managed to force you to work for their benefit. This is economic control. This is the purpose of government. Governments are predatory institutions. Economic culture. Make no mistake, you are a slave and government is your master. The brilliance of your masters, as opposed to, quote, conventional slavery, is that they allow you to believe that you earn what you work for and that you own what you buy. It keeps you complacent and agreeable. Taxation is a function of time. They will take just as much today as keeps you laboring in their behalf tomorrow. Cultural ideas like, quote, public servant, public works, public good, public protection, and social security illustrate their deviousness. They have actually convinced people that having their money stolen under threat of death is something to be desired. Remember, it is all for your own good. Constructs such as employee, job, corporation, and legal tender are rackets engineered by highly skilled extortionists to restrict behaviors and confiscate wealth. An employee is a person who performs work in trade for money. This is no different from a contractor, a non-employee, or a garage sale. You perform work in exchange for someone else's work. You create wealth to feed your family and to benefit your life. Employees, however, are constructs of government to restrict economic behavior. What's the difference between an employee and a person who only performs some work? If you gather together the thousands of pages of laws, you'll get the idea of who benefits from the artificial ideas of employee and corporation. Governments play employees and corporations off each other to divert anger over the loss of freedom from its proper target, the extortionist. Corporations are constructs invented to restrict the collective behaviors of people. If one person can work on a task, it is clear that many can group together to accomplish more complex tasks. Normally, this would just be you and me agreeing to do something together for the benefit of someone else in exchange for money. Corporations are, quote, creatures of the state, as governments call them, created to abstract the average person from the simple truth of people conducting trade. If government acknowledged the mammoth restrictions they put upon you, which tell you where you can and cannot trade, what you can and cannot trade, how you can and cannot trade, and at what price you can and cannot trade, they would have an instant revolt. Corporations allow them to create a demon to hide their own lusts for power and wealth. Corporations today attract the wrath of people as polluters, greedy conglomerates, and usury employers, despite the truth that a corporation is just you and I trading work. All of this is designed to hide the most advanced extortion racket in history. Cartels and monopolies. A corporate monopoly is hailed as evil because it destroys consumer choice. Governments tell us that monopolies force you to purchase a given product at a given price. The truth is that there is no force. You have at least two alternate choices. First, don't buy the product at all. Second, start your own group to manufacture the product. Given the supposed evil of a monopoly, what solution do governments offer? Government control. Government is the only true monopoly. You cannot choose whether or not to buy their, quote, services. Opting out is called treason and tax evasion. And authority will come to your door with guns. They will imprison you or kill you. Government is the only true monopoly. And their monopoly is a monopoly of violence. These are the people that we are taught to trust with authority over our goods and services. Demonizing corporations as monopolistic follows the pattern of tyranny precisely. Fabricate an enemy and seize control. A cartel is when the forces in an economy band together to preclude anyone else from entering a market. As with a monopoly, this is only possible with government. Only government has the weapons and police to stop you from selling a product or offering a service. There are cartels, large and small, all around the world. They normally focus on an industry within a country. For example, a government agency that controls the sale of drugs and healthcare operates a cartel. When licensing, government applications and fees become the barrier to entry in a market. Government effectively keeps the existing market in place and keeps you out. If you try to operate in freedom outside of the law, you will be jailed or killed. Many big businesses love cartels because government becomes their partner in keeping competition away. The laws and regulations that people are taught to agree do not hurt big business. Let me repeat that. The laws and regulations that people are taught to agree do not hurt big business. Big business are the only ones who can afford the cost of regulation. Some people think they are sticking to it to big business when they enact, quote, tough laws. But they are actually pawns of culture, and they themselves are the ones who are hurt. Regulation keeps big business big and bankrupts everyone else. This is the nature of government cartel. There are no other cartels. Choice. Taxation is championed by culture as the means of building societal needs. But social needs can never be met by force. A person who does not purchase a thing by choice can never gain benefit by being forced to pay for it. Welfare and the public good cannot be served by extortion. Only the owner of work can rightfully decide where that work is redeemed. All else is thievery. All claims of need and public good that are not met by free will are the lies of culture. An important principle to understand is that evil wants power over you. Money is only a representation of work, and as long as evil people can compel you to work on their behalf, they don't need to possess money to control you. This principle is exercised in welfare and socialist states. Money confiscated by politicians is largely not spent directly on themselves. However, they still enjoy the taste of power over you by taking and spending that which they did not earn. It is not money that is evil, but slavery. Frequently, governments will strengthen their culture grip over people by spending extorted money in targeted ways. Just as mafia dons and drug lords are known to spend on social projects for the benefit of the poor, governments use money to fabricate enemies and impersonate righteousness. They spend lavishly with other people's money on public works and welfare. In so doing, they pretend to be saviors of the people while condemning the rich, socialism, or the Jews, Nazis, or freedom itself, terrorists. The pattern plays out in 1,000 ways, and the artificial enemies are always different, but the result is always the same. Governments do not always spend money on themselves, but they always increase their power. Remember that money is only a representation of power. Its only value is in its ability to convince others to work on your behalf. Money's value can be wildly fluctuated depending upon how you view it at a given moment. Those in authority over you know very well that money can have vastly more value than the numbers printed on the front when you use it as a weapon against one group to benefit another. They claim to exercise authority with no gain for themselves. This is a great lie of evil, used liberally in democracies. It is a debt paid by slaves to be collected by authority in loyalty and allegiance. For all who wish to feed the poor of the world, there is only one solution: end authority. Freedom solves the world's ills. The reason the earth has widespread poverty is simply because people are not free to pursue prosperity. A free people are a prosperous people. Government debt. Government debt is money spent by governments before they confiscate it. Such debt has little meaning since the evil is found in the confiscation, not the timing. However, given the culture of democracies, people are taught the nobility of nations and the loyalty of being a taxpayer. Governments know that they can spend whatever they want today and obligate you to pay for it tomorrow. The nature of national cultures is such that even when the threshold of extortion is less than government spending, by the time the debt comes due, cultures convince people that it is their debt. In this fashion, they raise the threshold of extortion. People are less likely to revolt or quit working when they are taught that it is their nation, their debt, and their moral obligation to pay. Bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is a word used to describe the requirements of complying with government regulations. In order to make sure that you are obeying the countless laws governments subject you to, you must also subject yourself to the enforcement of those laws. Innocent and necessary in the eyes of culture, the truth is that bureaucracy is the patent nature of slavery. Evil seeks control over you to destroy your liberty, to destroy your spirit. The more you must do by force, the less freedom you have, and the stronger evil is. Every culture teaches the nobility of law enforcement. They teach that law enforcement prevents murders and rape. While it is entirely possible that they do on occasion stop violence, the vast majority of modern law enforcement is designed only to destroy liberty and extort wealth. Every visit to a motor vehicle's bureaucracy, every tax form, every time you are pulled over, every ordinance you comply with at home or on the job is law enforcement in action. The culture of law enforcement is one of protection. Their protection exists only to the extent necessary to convince you to submit to everything else they demand of you. The law teaches that you must comply with reams of bureaucracy and enforcement in order to protect other people from you. You are taught that you must comply with extensive enforcement because you cannot be trusted to live peaceably. While culture teaches that the nature of criminality is murder, rape, and theft, almost none of the enforcement of law has anything to do with such things. The reason is obvious. You are not evil. You do not do such heinous things. There is very little reason to believe that those around you are any less moral than you. And yet, somehow, to support that basic definition of crime, millions are employed as agents of law. They spend all their time making sure you comply with the facets and iotas of every regulation they can devise. The amount of extortion necessary to support vast bureaucracies is almost unfathomable. The amount of life culled from supposedly free peoples in obeying law is shocking. Yet evil has what it wants: enormous control, dramatically diminished liberty, and huge sums of your money. Building codes, environmental regulations, local planning, and on, each one justifiable in modern culture. Each one has armies to support them. Each one with just one thing in common: their enforcement by law destroys freedom. If any of these goals were noble in their own right, they would not need force to accomplish them. Their true result is to raise costs through increased property tax, impact fees, licensing fees, business fees, employees tax, etc. Even government programs designed to cultivate seemingly noble goals, such as, quote, ownership societies, are inherently evil. They are designed to stabilize populations. What that means is they get more people to commit to a location and the cost on long-term financing so that it is harder to escape taxation. If governments actually wanted families to own their own homes, they would simply stop charging them rent every year. Price controls. Governments sometimes implement price controls. They dictate under force of law what price you must sell your work at. They dictate under threat of imprisonment or death how much you will produce your labor for. In government-regulated cartels like healthcare, governments pretend to reduce costs either directly through price mandate or indirectly by buying services on behalf of citizens. Using either method, they insert the tentacles of control under the guise of protecting the poor from the greedy corporations and capitalists. By forcing people to work at artificial wages, they destroy the competition of a free market. When freedom is destroyed, only the powerful can survive. Cartels are thusly forged with governments. Powerful businesses watch their weaker competition fall to bankruptcy. Governments make sure it is prohibitively expensive to enter the market with fees and licensing requirements. Businesses then can enjoy government-mandated prices with no competition. Governments can enjoy control of prices and therefore guaranteed taxes. The intent of price controls are not to keep prices down, but to keep them up. Big business loves government regulations. Regulations ensure that only the well-established and extremely well-financed can compete. People seeking to trade their skills, products, or expertise are burdened with the impossible demands of government. Thusly, big business is an extension of the compulsion of government. Anti-business regulations that people are taught to support are actually good for big business. Instead of hindering them, such regulations destroys your liberty. Protectionism. Protectionism teaches that those within one nation or border should exclude others from trade under force of law. This takes place as restrictions on buying and selling products and services, as well as employing people. Why should the citizens of one nation be less entitled to wages or a job than the next? Protectionism is that simple. Are those outside your border inferior human beings that they should be kept from working by force? What morality exists in the teaching that one group of people is more valuable than another because of where they were born or where they live? Freedom is about the value of people. The disparity between personal profits of peoples in different lands is large. In one area, a family may make hundreds of times less than those in another area. If all people have the same value, why is force employed to stop the poor from earning money at any job they are willing to perform? If the poor want to sell something to a powerful nation, and the people of that nation want to purchase it because it is sold at a lower cost, why should a government wish to hamper what benefits both peoples? Governments use force to stop items from being sold within their borders at lower costs than what those in their own nation will produce. We are taught that their reason for destroying the liberty of people is that they are protecting the industries of their land. It is not hard to see the truth in evil when governments extract large percentages of money from trades. The higher the cost of the product, the higher the extracted tax. Protection, as always, is slavery. Education. Governments control education for the purpose of culturing employees. The objective of state education is the stabilization of the tax base. Schooling, education, and knowledge are not the same thing. One is not a natural result of the other. People grow in knowledge when they learn truths. Teaching and schooling are meaningless when students do not seek wisdom. They are likewise meaningless when that which is being taught is not wisdom. In order to learn, people must thirst for knowledge. Force and compulsion cannot accomplish this. Law does not pretend to teach people their worth or abilities of achievement. Law desires only that you learn obedience. Not only does law provide a way for students to learn the merits of social and economic obedience to authority, it enforces a near-perfect monopolization against all other teachers. Private schools and parents themselves are nearly shut out from teaching children the one lesson they need: an understanding of their own value and potential. When people understand that their minds are truly capable of anything, that they are able to learn and grow according to their dreams, they tend to make poor citizens. They question culture and oppressive authority. They reject taxation. They are stronger, more peaceful, more prosperous, and more independent. All of this is wonderful for humanity and destroys evil. Revealing truth. To see the truth in an idea, it is a good idea to flip it upside down. Socialism teaches that people deserve to receive the benefits of working without actually working. Flipped upside down, socialism teaches that those who work must work not only for themselves, but for everyone else as well. As with all authority, there is no choice, no opting out. Socialism reveals forced labor. Price controls teach that people deserve to receive products and services at a proper price. Flipped upside down, the price controls teach that you must work to create products at the price government says you must work for. Price controls reveal forced labor. Welfare teaches that people deserve to receive the basic necessities of life without needing to work for them. Flipped upside down, welfare teaches that those unwilling to labor for their own benefit can extract it from you. Welfare reveals forced labor. Bureaucracy teaches that people should be able to expect others to behave according to strict rules to benefit everyone. Flipped upside down, bureaucracy teaches that to keep bureaucratic employees in the money, everyone must jump through hoops and pay fees and fines. Bureaucracy reveals forced labor. Taxation teaches that people deserve to receive roads, protection, schools, and all other manner of services, even if they cannot afford them. Flipped upside down, Taxation teaches that people have the right to force their neighbors to pay for services without the hassle of asking for permission. Taxation reveals forced labor. All economic control is slavery.